Glad you made it. Welcome to the farm. Who's your daddy? I'm your daddy now. I'm here seeking only what I need. In your mind is where I'll plant my seed. It's for sure. Trust me, dear, you're better off this way. Put to bed the sun and sister moon. I'll be hiding in your dirty room. I'll go there seeking till we bleed, it's for sure.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Crush Live Call-Ins. I'm your host here, Bart Hanson. We do this show every Monday at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time, 7:45 Eastern. It's Monday. I'm back from Jacksonville. Next week, I will be headed to Kansas City. We will have a show. I'm going to do the show on Monday. I'll be in Kansas City midweek. And then I will be in Austin, Texas over the weekend, and then I'll be back the following Monday. So Jacksonville, I wish I really had a chance to see the city. I didn't really see it that much, but played the 5,000 Bounty and played on a live stream. So it was pretty entertaining. If you want to ever call in your hand here, please pre-submit. The information about that is in the description. You can email me at bart@crushlivepoker.com, bart@crushlivepoker.com. And for now, I'm going to be posting the live streams, but that's probably going to end. So you'll want to turn notifications on and also subscribe to the channel so that when I make these live streams unlisted again, you'll get an email with the live streams, with the live stream link, which is where I put it unlisted. So let's get in here to the first call. This comes from the Tennessee area. And this is Grant. What's going on, Grant? How you doing?
Good, Bart. How you doing?
Good. Are you a first-time caller?
Nope, I've called a couple times, but it's been 6 months to a year.
Oh, okay. All right, 6 months. You sounded familiar to me. All right, you have a hand for us here, Grant.
Yep, this comes from Parks Casino.
Okay.
2,500 cap.
Parks 2.5, 1,000 cap. Do they still do that, like, have like a crazy Tuesday there or whatever, where they play the 10-10 and all those different mixed games and stuff?
Yep.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. I can't. Yep. I go up there many times during the week, and that's when I play. And so Tuesdays is usually packed.
So Tuesdays is their day. Quite interesting. Okay, so 2-5, 1,000 cap.
Yep. So folds to MP1, who is I describe as a tight reg, doesn't get terribly out of line, but basically thinking player raises to 25 over one limp. I'm sorry. So there was a limp, and he raises to 25.
All right, so MP1 raises to 25 over one limp. Okay.
And folds to hero in the cutoff, and I make it 100 with 8 of clubs, 7 of clubs. So decided to, as you've talked about, promoting position and playing pots heads up, take this into a 3-bet.
Now, when you emailed me this hand, just one quick little thing, didn't you say that the guy was a tight opener from MP1? He raised over a limp, but he was pretty tight.
Yep.
So, I mean, you're in the cutoff, so you're in position. You can kind of go either way. I mean, I don't generally do a whole lot of sort of light 3-betting against people that I would tag to be tight because they have a stronger range, as opposed to somebody who's obviously opening like a lot wider, and you're going to get a lot of immediate folds. I understand that there's a limper in there, so getting it heads up is obviously can be helpful. You're not on the button, so you're going to drive out the button and the blinds, but I just wouldn't take it too far if the guy is actually really, really tight. But okay, you 3-bet to 100. I'm assuming that the limper folds.
Limper folds, we go heads up. So
Okay.
just one question on the, it's kind of varying between 3-betting and just calling. But you're okay, and then you call and the button calls, and then typically in the 2-5 games, once one person calls, it's going to be a chain reaction. So, but you're okay with 8-7 of clubs to call there too?
Well, I mean, the closer you are to the button, the more flatting that you can do. You wouldn't. I mean, it kind of just gets worse and worse, right? Like you wouldn't want to necessarily like call a UTG raise with UTG from UTG1 with 7-8 of clubs with a field behind you. But I mean, just because you call in the cutoff doesn't mean the button's going to call, right? I mean, it's just like the further you are, the closest to your button, the more that the more flatting that you can do. Like I said, there is a limper in there too, so you might be incentivized to obviously to drive him out. So I mean, I don't hate it. I like I said, I wouldn't take it too far. So 3-bet to 100 and MP1 calls, right?
Yep. So about 200 in the pot.
Okay.
Flop is 9 of hearts, 5 of diamonds, 4 of clubs.
Flop is 9 of hearts, 5 of diamonds, 4 of clubs. So you flop like a gut shot here and a backdoor flush draw, right? 9-5-4 rainbow.
Yes.
Okay.
And MP1 checks to me.
Okay.
So I bet 85.
Okay.
So first question I have is, as you've been playing this 5-5 challenge, and I think you reference it a good bit sometimes on the podcast, the spaz factor. So just any thoughts on sizing of something less than half pot versus traditionally value-oriented games? You're going to bet, 2/3 to 3/4 pot, but this is 3-bet. So what are your thoughts on sizing here?
Well, how deep are you guys? Number one, I know you said it's 1,000
1,000.
cap. You're 1,000 effective.
Yeah, we're 1,000 effective. Yep.
I mean, $85 into a pot of like 205 to 210 is probably like 40% of the pot. I mean, yeah, I can definitely get on board with it. I don't think that there's really any reason to just blast away here for like 130 or 140. There's going to be a lot of interesting things I'm going to talk about in Jacksonville because they seem like they're like 5-10 years behind. So, it's one of these things where you can make a bet probably with your entire 3-bet range here for 30% of the pot. Is that the most efficient way to play your range in live poker? Maybe not necessarily. I mean, I tend to go for 40 to 50%, like in spots like this at this stack depth. I don't have a problem with it. So you bet 85.
He calls.
Okay.
Pot's 370.
Pot is 370. Okay.
Turn is a 7 of hearts.
7 of hearts.
Heart draw.
So the board is 9 of hearts, 5 of diamonds, 4 of clubs, and now the turn is the 7 of hearts. So now you turn a pair with your basically gut shot to a 6, right? Well, gut shot to gut shot to a 6. Yep.
And villain leads for 150.
Oh, this is interesting. So he's leading for 150 into 370. I mean, right off the bat here, this kind of smells like a hand like tens or jacks that is playing like a little bit of a stop and go. You know what I mean? Like the 7 really doesn't. Especially if you're saying the MP1 guy is tight, you're not going to really see like a 6-8 suited here, right? Which is the nuts, right? Some crazy thing like that. I mean, I guess it's possible that he could have 7s, although I think it's unlikely to play this way. Same thing with like 9s as like a check call lead. I just think it's way more likely that he's got specifically 10s through maybe even queens here, right? So, when he's betting 150, pot's going to be 520, right? Pot's already 370, so the pot's going to be 520, 150 for you to call. You're getting like 3.5 to 1 here. Now, you could have, if he does have a single paired hand, you've got a gut shot to a 4, gut shot to a 6, and then you've got a 5 out draw with your 7-8. So it's like, you've got 9 outs. You probably have like 1 chance in 5 of hitting, or 4 to 1. And like I said, I'm doing this dirty like with 45 unseen cards. And the reason why I'm saying 45 unseen cards is because I'm assuming he's got 10s, jacks, or queens. So you have 2 cards, he has 2 cards, is already 4 out there. It's actually 44, but it's a lot easier. 9 into 45 is 1 out of 5. You would need 4 to 1. Here you're getting 3.5 to 1 in immediate odds. So obviously there's some implied odds, for you to make this call. So I just think that you're behind. I mean, the other thing to be said is that if a 6 comes in, which gives you your straight, it puts a 1-liner out there, obviously. And on the surface, it might look like, oh, you're not going to get paid off, but it is a 3-bet pot, and you might even get more likely to get paid off if a 6 comes and the guy checks and you bet, and he's sitting there with like jacks or queens, as opposed to you call this turn, the river's a deuce, he checks, and you blast, because people just think that you're inherently polarized, in a spot like that. So, I mean, I definitely would make this call here, just in the fact that you've got almost a direct price here, putting him on a specific range.
Okay, so at least we're. I guess one thing I did, of course, think about was the fact that the hearts came to put a backdoor heart. So I started just putting in a few combos of some type of, we have suited Broadway Jack 10's, the gut shot with hearts, and then maybe just 1 or 2 combos potentially leading hearts.
I
like
mean, I don't think he's going to have Jack. I mean, if he's tight and it's 2-5 and you're betting 85 on this flop, I mean, is he calling with Jack 10 of hearts on a 9 of hearts, 5 of diamonds, 4 of clubs board? I mean, you're sort of betting like 40%. I mean, that's the whole thing with why it's kind of like a little cat and mouse when you bet tiny, because and you didn't bet tiny, but I'm saying like the 20, 25% sort of bet that a lot of solvers will say. And it's because people are supposedly aren't defending with the types of hands that they're supposed to. Like they would just fold out Queen Jack of Hearts. That's never going to happen in live poker. That's why I actually think that betting larger is a little bit better. I mean, the small bets are because it's trying to exploit people under defending, and I just don't buy it. If you were thinking about hearts here, it would probably have to be more likely like the nut flush draw on 2 overcards that just suddenly bets, like an ace queen of hearts, ace king of hearts, or something like that. I mean, I really think this screams like 10s through queens. But so you call?
Yep, I call. So we're at about 670, I believe.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
River 5 of clubs. There's the board.
River is the 5 of clubs. Okay, so 9 of hearts, 5 of diamonds, 4 of clubs, 7 of hearts, and now the river is the 5 of clubs. Okay.
Villain checks to us.
All right, so V1 checks. Okay. And now
And
the
here's
question.
why I don't. Yeah, what do I do? Do I have to turn into a bluff?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, we had a call like this at 1-2, I think that was put up last week, where a guy, obviously 2-5 is different from 1-2, but if you go back, this is probably in the first week of October, is this video that got posted up on YouTube, and I think it's like, should you bluff at 1-2? And this guy had 3-bet, I think it was ace king of spades, and he bet a like a backdoor flop like you did here. And then he turned a flush draw. He turned the nut flush draw, and a guy donk-led into him, and he just shoved, but he didn't quite realize the pot odds that the guy was getting here. In that spot, the guy would have been getting like 4 or 5 to 1, and I was just like, I would just call and take my equity. Here, the pot's 670. This guy's put in, I mean, he's got maybe like, 750 or so. Actually, less than that. He's got maybe 700. Less than 700. He's got about a pot-sized bet left, right? 100 pre-flop, 150 on the turn, and 85. So, if you were to move all in here, this is like, you look at this and you're like, okay, is it profitable here to try to move somebody off of like tens, jacks, queens at this level, or do you pick up your extra EV in other ways at this level, like sort of value betting people to death? In general, I don't like to move people off of hands. Also, too, I think that you do have a sliver of fold equity. That's where I think that this is definitely a check back, because you have some showdown value where if that guy was pulling some shit with like nut hearts, you beat him, right? It's not like you have a hand, I'm trying to think of a hand here where you just missed. Like if you have like Jack 10 of hearts, where you just can't win, right? If you have Jack 10 of hearts, it's interesting because you're just basically giving up. And then, well, of course, you would block him having what I think sort of are his primary hands that he would play like this. Here, you don't block those hands. He can have tens through queens, and I think you have a sliver of showdown value. So I don't think that I would bluff here.
Okay, that helps, because when I was thinking through it in game, I put myself in his shoes. I wouldn't fold queens or jacks, maybe tens, but so I didn't think there was a ton of fold equity with those hands if they were over pairs. And like you said, I feel like I beat those couple hands that could be draws. So I check back, and he says what you said, ace king of hearts, and we scoop.
So V1 has ace of hearts, king of hearts, which is kind of bizarre when you think about it, because it's really bizarrely played, right? So you win, right, with a pair of sevens, but you see this sometimes where, like, what is the reason for him to lead out with ace king of hearts? There really is no way he can ever get called by worse. And he's really not folding out anything that's better than his hand. Like, if he wanted to make a semi-bluff here and try to, like, fold out jacks, try to fold out tens, or if you had made some sort of light 3-bet with ace-5 or ace-9, why not go for a check raise on the turn? Normally, specifically ace-king of hearts, which is like the nut-no pair, in this particular configuration as a 3-bet, where you're going to be somewhat sort of polar, where you're going to have like a top range hand or you've sort of missed. Normally that hand doesn't have to be played strongly, right? Because he's either winning or he's not winning. He doesn't necessarily have to try to make a play to move you off of something that's better. A lot of times, sometimes he has the best hand. But the sheer fact that he just leads turn, like, what is leading the turn here? What does that do with his specific hand? I mean, it's almost better, like, there's a difference if he had, like, ace deuce of hearts, right? Where he wants some of the ace highs to fold, like ace queen and ace king, if he played, like, a check call lead. But he has ace king, right? So why come out and bet on the turn? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of the point of the call, because it confused me. So I did do kind of quick math of the odds on the turn. I thought I did have the direct odds should I hit, but yeah, I was confused. That's why I want to see what you would think with his hand.
Now, somebody in the live chat says that he's price setting the turn. I mean, so I guess he's blocking the turn here. I mean, I don't know if that's a thing or not, but 150 and he's betting like half the size of like 40% of the size of the pot. I mean, if he wanted to block the turn, I would think it would be like less than like $90 here, or something like that. But I don't know. I thought that was a pretty cool call. Thank you very much for the call. And
Thanks, Bart.
So I'm going to bring us to our next hand, which is going to be, because I know that we're going to use this, this is going to be my hand, one of my hands, that I played at the Jacksonville Bounty Best Bet. And because I know I want to do this for a video, we're going to bring this puppy up. So we're going to talk through this hand with me. So this was Jacksonville Best Bet, $5,000 main event with $2,500 bounties. I'm a bounty. So if someone knocks me out, they win $2,500. The villain in this hand, she covers me. She's also a bounty. So this was towards the end of day one. So we were about 60% of the way through the field. We were about 60% of the way through the field. Last level of day one, the average is about 90,000 in chips. I have 55,000. The blinds are 600, 1,200. So I've got about 45 blinds, kind of that sort of in-between type of spot. Villain in the hand is going to be in the small blind. This is Jessica Dowley. Jessica Dowley. I haven't even checked the standings. I know she was still in when I'm recording this the next day. Sort of like a tournament pro, and she has 90,000. So the first inflection point here is it gets folded around a low jack, and he seemed like a pretty solid guy, like kind of an older. He's a little bit older, maybe in his mid-50s, but he had been playing pretty solid. And he had 100,000. He opens to 2,500, so just under the minimum. I am in the hijack, and I have ace queen of hearts here, and I decide to flat. Now, I think that this is going to be a mix of 3-bet, a mix of flat. I mean, it's low jack versus hijack. I am suited. I do sometimes struggle in these particular spots. I thought it was a little bit awkward to 3-bet and then have to fold a hand so good as ace queen. There weren't like a ton of squeezing people behind me. So I decided to flat in the hijack with ace queen. So it goes 2,500. I call. Folds around to villain, Jessica Dolly, in the small blind. And she 3-bets here out of the small blind to 12,500. So low jack to 2,500. I call hijack, ace queen of hearts. Fold to small blind. She 3-bets to 12,500, which is about 5x. Low jack folds. And it comes back over to me, and I'm just like, I just think that ace queen of hearts here is just too good to fold. I mean, there's antes out there. There's already like, I mean, the pot's like going to be like somewhere around 20,000, 10,000 for me to call. Just under 2-1, ace queen of hearts. Now, the interesting part of this is that when I asked some people about this hand, and they looked at some charts from some tournament training sites, like I think it was Raise Your Edge, specifically like ace queen suited at about a 40 big blind stack is one of the few combos that is flatted and then re-jammed to a squeeze. Now, I'm assuming that that's assuming that there is a high enough squeeze sort of proportion behind you, because a lot of these people in live poker are squeezing much tighter. But like all 4 combos of ace queen suited were flatted and re-jammed, and then just partials of pocket tens. And then other hands did other things, like ace queen offsuit 3-bet folded, ace king 3-bet called, aces kings were mostly 3-bet called or sometimes flatted and then sort of trapped. But I decided to call. So 12,500 low jack folds, and I call. So the pot is 30,000 and 30,500, and I've got like maybe 43,000 left. So it's pretty, the stack to pot ratio is pretty large. So the board comes out, queen of diamonds, 10 of clubs, 5 of spades. So obviously I flop top pair. Queen of diamonds, 10 of clubs, 5 of spades. Jessica bets 7,500 into 30,500. And I decide to call. I was sort of doing the math out here. I was like, well, if I call, the pot will be like 45,500. I'll have about, 35,000 left. I don't want her just to sort of like fold out her bluffs, but I pretty much know like if a blank comes and she bets it again, I'm probably, going to have to make my decision there. So I make the call. The pot's 45,000 and a half. And we go to the turn. And the turn here is the 6 of clubs. So again, low jack opens 2,500. I call. Jessica 3-bets at 12,500. Fold, I call. The pot is 30.5. I've got like 43,000 back. Board comes out Queen of Diamonds, 10 of Clubs, 5 of Spades. She bets 7.5K. I call. Pot is 45.5. Turn is the 6 of Clubs, and now she bets 15,000. So she bets 15,000 and 45.5, and I'm doing the math. I'm like, well, if I just call here, the pot's going to be like 75,000, and I'm going to have like 20,000 left in my stack. So, and I was just like, on this turn card, once I get here in this particular spot, how can I really fold? And then when I did the math, and I was like, it's kind of doubtful that if I just call here, that there's really going to be a bluffing frequency, that I feel like I almost need to protect the pot a little bit, because it's one of these things where even if she just has like an ace-king type of hand, if she's not going to bluff on the river, I'm basically just sort of inherently giving her a free card to like a king or a jack if she's not going to bluff on the river. Whereas if I jam here for the 20,000, I kind of shut her out of the pot. Obviously in tournament poker, it makes a big deal, to win the pot. So I wasn't going to make that mistake and just call the 15K and leave myself 20,000. So at this point I was just like, damn, I have to, I'm just going to go with it. So I moved all in, and she snap called, and I was like, fuck. Well, by the way, too, like, with ace queen, like I block aces, right? So, the primary hand here that she's going to have is kings, or maybe she squeezed tens, or very, very unlucky, pocket queens, something like that. So I jam it all in, and she makes the call, and I'm drawing dead. She has pocket queens, but I don't think that I could have done anything different here in this spot besides possibly, people are like, well, if I were to 3-bet here pre, and then she 4-bet, I guess I could 3-bet fold, but it seems like a really strong hand to 3-bet fold, but especially when there aren't a lot of people that are doing like sort of 4-bet bluffs behind. But again, going by those charts, it's very interesting that the ace-queen suited here, maybe in this configuration, is flat rejammed. I don't think she's going to fold queens. But if she had a squeeze, maybe she folds like jacks, possibly. I don't think she folds ace-king offsuit because she's going to be too committed. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing some people like what they think in the comments for this particular video as to how this one was played. I'm definitely not an expert at these stack depths. I play mostly cash games. Obviously, I had a big score in the monster stack. I've made some pretty big runs in big fields, like over 15 years, a couple final tables at World Series, Commerce, LAPC, a couple deep runs in the main event. But, that just kind of sucks. So anyways, that was it. She won the bounty. She won 2,500, and then it was out. But I had a great time in Jacksonville, and I would highly recommend that if anyone is sort of rolling through the Florida area, check out Jacksonville. Best bet. All right, let's get to our next caller here. And this is Joseph in the 805.
Yes, this is Joe.
How you doing?
Hi there. Doing well. How are you doing?
Good.
So I got a 1-2 hand, 800 effective at a small casino in Oklahoma.
1-2, 800 effective. What's a small casino in Oklahoma? I'm sort of just curious.
It's on the border of Oklahoma and Arkansas. It's called West Island Springs.
Oklahoma and Arkansas. I didn't even know Oklahoma and Arkansas had a border. How much border is there of Oklahoma and Arkansas?
The whole east side of Oklahoma borders the whole west side. So there's two casinos that have poker on that kind of on those border towns there.
So, but you're from Oklahoma.
I'm from Arkansas, actually.
Oh, you're from Arkansas. Oh, I was gonna say like.
There's no poker in Arkansas. So you have to go there.
Is there like an eastern Oklahoma versus like western Oklahoma thing going on, and then is there like a western Arkansas versus like eastern Arkansas type of thing? I've never been to Arkansas.
Yeah, northwest Arkansas, it's where Walmart is headquartered. So there's a couple other big companies there. So you do get there's a lot of people from Arkansas that play. Probably more people from Arkansas than Oklahoma there.
But that's in the Ozarks, right? Isn't northwest Arkansas in the sort of the Ozarks?
Yeah, it's in that region.
Okay. Anyways, enough of my geography interested stuff. But anyways, all right. 1-2 800 effective. Yep.
Okay, and so it's a match the stack, so you can buy in for the deepest stack.
Okay.
And the villain in the hand opens $10 in the hijack.
So hijack
And
opens to 10. Okay.
I'm in the cutoff,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got the 6-7 of clubs, and I make the call. And the small blind calls. Everybody else folds.
All right. Let me ask you a couple questions here.
Sure.
So is this a standard open here, basically to 10? Like 5x is kind of a standard open here at 1-2?
Probably 10 to 12, I would say, if no one's limped in, usually 10 to 12.
Okay, and then there's probably not that much 3-betting, right, that goes on in these games?
Not really, yeah.
Did you
Not
consider
without premium hands.
Did you consider 3-betting this hand?
I did. He's the villain's a somewhat competent player, so and we're really deep, so maybe that would be good to disguise the hand, but elected to call at the end.
I mean, it's just that, again, like going back, we had a caller earlier too, like, you're in the cutoff, so you can certainly flat more, but the further away you are from the button, the more that you definitely want to promote your position. And then when you start to see people like opening up really wide from late position, if they're kind of out of line, you can print, especially with stacked up, so you have the ability
that
to
makes
maneuver, and you drive the blinds out. I mean, it's just something to be said. A lot of people aren't comfortable playing in 3-bet pots with non-premium hands. You're probably not giving up that much. Like, I feel like it's one of these things where if you want to move up and you want to get better, it's something that you certainly should implement in your game, but it could have more of a downside now for a lot of players that don't know what they're doing, and it's not like you're giving up all that much. But anyway, so you call in the cutoff on the small blind calls, right?
Right.
Okay.
So 3 ways to the flop.
Yep.
The flop comes 5 of clubs, 8 of diamonds, jack of clubs.
Okay, so you flop straight draw and a flush draw, right? Towards the
Right.
the bottom end open-ended.
Right.
Mhm.
Small blind checks,
Mm-hmm.
and the villain c-bets $15.
So he bets 15 into 30. Okay.
And I elected to raise to $50 here.
I mean, I like it. I mean, obviously you should have some combo draws, right? Like a 9-10 of clubs, 6-7 of clubs. So you've got a low flush draw here, also a low straight draw. So it kind of promotes the ability to sort of knock that third player out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's one thing sometimes too that you could call if you were heads up, but I like to knock that third player out. I think it looks somewhat stronger. You probably have sets of 8s, sets of 5s. I don't know if you call with Jack 8 suited from the cutoff. You might on the button. I'm trying to think about like the other hands, that you have here. And occasionally you might even raise with like an Ace Jack or something like that against small sizing. So I don't have a problem with that. So you make it 50.
Small blind folds,
Okay.
and the villain calls.
All right, so we're looking at about $130 now.
Exactly.
Okay.
Turn card is the queen of spades.
Queen of spades. Okay.
The villain checks, and curious your thoughts here. I bet $100.
All right, so 9-10 comes in. I mean, I would definitely continue to bet here for sure. I think that if he were to have like a hand like King Jack, Ace Jack, it would be very, very difficult for him to continue on in this spot. I mean, to be honest with you, at this level, I'm not saying that somebody's going to fold an overpair, but I would be very concerned if I were to have an overpair here too.
Right.
Because 9-10 gets it, just you have a lot of it's just like you're continuing to pound the pot, and usually people don't play draws this aggressively at the lower stakes. Like I said, like sort of 9-10 gets there, you might have a Jack 8. I don't think you're necessarily raising with Queen Jack, but yeah, I like it for sure. This guy says, Darth Nihilus, who is a Star Wars, I'm trying not to call from cutoff when hijack opens. I mean, I think that's really tight to not call 6-7 of clubs. I mean, I guess, like I said, I think it's just a question of three betting or calling, but at 800, I think it's that's really tight. So you bet 100, okay?
Villain calls,
Villain calls again. Interesting.
Right.
So now the pot is 330.
330.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And river bricks out. It is a queen of hearts. I guess not a total brick, depending on his hand, but it's the queen of hearts.
The river is the queen of hearts. So total brick. Okay. Well, it's a
And the
high
villain
brick.
checks.
Okay.
Right.
So this is where I think things are interesting. So the villain checks. So it's like, well, see, this is much different. I feel like than having. If the river was an 8 or a 5 here, this would be much worse, I think, for you. I mean, I guess you can look at it a couple of different ways. I mean, if the river's an 8 or a 5, that means that you have, less sets, you have less full houses just because of combinations wise, right? Whereas here, the queen
Right.
doesn't really change anything except the fact that you basically get counterfeit with Jack 8. But it's also another one of these ones where it's high card pairing, as opposed to like if you actually had 9-10 here and then you got somehow scared if like the Jack paired at the end or something like that. I mean, I wouldn't get scared if the Jack paired at the end with 9-10, but it's almost like an inconsequential board pair. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it's sort of, it's not quite as inconsequential as deuce deuce, but it doesn't necessarily play into the hand all that much, with the exception of the fact that the guy could have like a hand like queen 10 or something like that,
Right.
which is like a gut shot.
Ace queen of clubs, king queen of clubs, queen 10 of clubs, queen 9 of clubs. All those flop either a pair or they flop like a straight draw on the flop that then turn.
Yeah, I mean, but those are
yeah.
combo draws, right? Like king queen of clubs, right?
Right.
I mean, he could have queen X of clubs, right? Queen 10 of clubs, king queen of clubs, something like that.
Ace queen, yep.
But I think I would still probably go for it here with a bet, and then I'm trying to think of like what would what would we be targeting basically here to to fold out. I might polarize here. I mean, because I think it's much more likely that he has a hand here. It could be a jack, but if you bet like say $400 here, I think it's going to be pretty hard for this guy to call, and they probably don't see those bets all that much. Now, again, in a previous call, I told the guy not to bluff because he had a little bit of showdown value. Here, you have the absolute worst hand that you can possibly have. I think that you still credibly represent more sets than he does, the way that this is played out. And I think occasionally you'll run into a queen, but sometimes you might even have like queen X of clubs here too, right?
Right.
So what ended up happening?
I think you're right. I ended up chickening out. I checked it back, and he shows ace 10 of clubs. So he turned a double gutter and the nut flush draw. But obviously I could have easily gotten him off that hand on the river.
Yeah, but I mean, that's only like just one specific combination. It's interesting. I mean, it's interesting here. See, this is where you wonder, this is where sometimes you could, and again, I'm not the best with solvers and stuff. Like I usually like work through when people will do it for me, like on top section, and then we'll talk about it. But this is like kind of a spot where even at a low stakes game, you actually might look at, this could where you might actually look at a solver and try to figure out what a solver says that you're supposed to bluff with here at the end, and then try to understand the reasoning why. Of course, the problem is that a solver won't take into account the fact that people very well might continue to call turns and stuff where they're not supposed to. Possibly, I don't know, like an ace jack or a king jack or something like that. It's pretty interesting here. I mean, again, it's a results oriented thing. The fact that he has ace of clubs, 10 of clubs here. Will he come off of like kings, aces? If he called with the jack, will he come off of that? Would he bet call with tens and continue to call the turn when he picks up a gutter? Will he come off of that? I mean, those are all kind of interesting questions. In general, I don't like running huge bluffs at this level, but I think with this particular hand, I very well might do it.
Got it.
So, anyways, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Bart.
All right.
Bye.
So we have 2 more callers here. I can't. It's almost comical. I got to tell you, it is really almost comical. This guy, I really almost want to call him out. Like I feel like a little bit of Joey Ingram in me. I want to make sure he's not on the line here, first of all. But this fucking guy. Let's see. Let me read here. Alan from Encore. He wrote me in for a hand last week and he didn't show up. And then he made an appointment to call again this week and he didn't call again. Are you fucking serious? Alan from the Encore. This guy is dicking me around. Anyways, I think Sean is on the line here. Is that Sean here in the 310?
Yeah, it is.
Hey, what's up, Sean?
Hi,
This
Bart.
fucking
How are you?
guy. Nice to hear from you.
Good to hear from you.
Anyways, Sean, you got a hand for us?
Yeah, I do. I have a hand that I played at the Palm Beach Casino in Mayfair, London. It's a £10, £20 game where there was a £40 straddle on for most of the night.
All right, so 10, 20 pound, right?
Yeah.
But it was mostly straddled to 40 pounds, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
In this hand, it was straddled to a £40. Yes.
Okay.
So I was in middle position with Queen of Diamonds, Queen of Clubs, and I raised to 150.
Can you just speak up a little bit, Sean? You're a little bit low. How deep are you guys? Did you say 9,000?
Yeah.
9,000 effective?
Yeah. 9,700 effective.
All
yeah.
right, great. So 9,700 effective. Okay.
So yeah, I'm in middle position with Queen of Diamonds, Queen of Clubs, and I raised to 150.
So hero in MP1, Queen of Diamonds, Queen of Clubs, and raise to 150. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Button calls and the big blind calls.
And is this a full hand, like a 9-handed game, basically?
It was an 8-handed game. Yeah.
8-handed game. Oh, that's good.
8-handed. Yeah.
They play it 8-handed.
They did. Yeah.
That's
there was. I mean, there was nine. It was 9-handed, but
It's almost
most of the time there was only there was one person or two people missing.
Oh, okay. That's how it kind of is mostly in LA games too, right? Because like you don't. One of the other things too that I realized is traveling around playing, there's a lot of third man walking rules, which is really good. They just never do that in LA. And because it's a drop game, people just get up and leave, so it's rarely 9-handed. And these guys just like get up and leave when it starts getting short. So you've got queens and MP1, raise to 150, button calls, big blind calls. The straddle is obviously on, right?
Yeah, the straddle folds. The straddle's on and he folds. Yeah.
Okay, so 3 ways, right?
Yeah, 3 ways. The
Okay.
pot's 520, and the flop comes King of Clubs, Queen of Spades, Jack of Diamonds.
King of Clubs, Queen of Spades, Jack of Diamonds.
Jack of Diamonds.
So you flop middle set.
Flop middle set.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
The big blind now checks, and I bet 220. And the button calls, and the big blind folds. Now, I wanted to ask you, first of all, do you think that's too small?
The button calls and the big blind folds. Is that right?
Correct.
Button calls, big blind folds. This is where I got confused when you sent me the hand in a little bit, Sean. Cause
I made a mistake.
Yeah, because
I kept on writing big blind.
The positions.
But it was button.
Yeah. This is interesting because I wonder if this flop. I mean, I would bet here almost always against live competition, right? Like unless you were playing like some sort of crazy crushers, right?
Right.
But again, but you probably have 9-10 suited and ace-10 suited. So I'll actually take that back. From MP1, if you're opening 9-10 suited and ace-10 suited, you have all the nuts here. So which you are opening ace-10 suited and 9-10 suited, you're going to have more. You have a nut advantage. You have a range advantage because the guy in the button's supposed to be 3-betting off some kings and queens, right? Like a lot of kings, a lot of queens, a lot of jacks. You have them all. He has partials, if any. And then you have all the 9-10 suiteds and the ace-10 suiteds. And probably even at more of a frequency than he does, because he's probably supposed to 3-bet some of those off too, although he can flat on the button. So you've got everything here. So at first I was looking at this, and then I was like, well, do you ever check here? But if we're looking at it from sort of a high stakes theory perspective, then no, you wouldn't be. If the board was like 5, 6, 7, and you had like, say, pocket sixes, pocket sevens, something like that, you might occasionally as a balance do that, but I don't think you can do so on this board. So you bet 220.
Can I ask though,
yeah.
in terms of the sizing, like would you, because I feel like this was a mistake here. I bet so small. Like I bet less than half pot.
Yeah, I think you could probably go larger for sure and reflect the fact. But again, we get into this sort of whole like cat and mouse game where you're allowed to bet larger because your opponents are supposed to have to defend wider, because they're going to end, like if a guy has like king 9 suited here on the button, like he's just going to have to go almost to the end with that. And that's the theory behind why you're allowed to bet larger, because they have to defend wider, because you have such an advantage on this board. You're just allowed to go larger. You ended up going about half the size. I might bet like maybe 300 or something. So you bet 220.
That's correct. Yeah.
Button calls, big blind folds.
So button calls, big blind folds. Pot's now 960.
Yeah.
And the turn is the 10 of hearts, which for me kind of killed the action.
Wow,
I decided to check.
So it's a total rainbow board. So it's a total rainbow board. King, queen, jack. Turn is a 10. And so it puts a one-liner out there to a 9. And obviously...
to an ace,
To an ace. It's kind of interesting. I mean, I guess you're opening from MP1. I just wonder how many ace X here he can have. And then for that matter, how does he have a 9? Really, all that much here either, because he called next to act, unless he flopped 9-10 and just called with it. Like, he's not going to call. I'm trying to think of the absolute bottom parts of pre-flop calling range on the button that calls flop. I guess king 9 suited. I don't think he's supposed to call with jack 9 when you bet, and then there's a guy behind him. And how does he have an ace here? He could call on the button, I guess, with like an ace queen, and then have to continue. So I guess he has some small slivers of aces.
Ace jack here as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, calling next to act with the guy behind, it seems somewhat suspect because the big blind is in there, but I just don't think it's all that represented. But I do think that you're probably going to be forced to check here on the turn, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the pot's still 960, and the river now comes the king of diamonds.
So you check, and he checks behind. Is that right?
He checks behind, yeah.
All right,
correct.
So here checks, and button checks behind. Okay.
Yeah, and now the river is the king of diamonds, which we bowed up. So here I'm now thinking about sizing, obviously trying to value bet. And the only thing I didn't tell you at the beginning was this is a very competent, good player. And I decided to bet 780
so the
into
pot,
960.
The pot's 960, right? Let's see here, 960.
Right.
And you bet, hero bets 780. This is a really, really interesting spot because, boy, Sean, I don't know how you get into a lot of these spots. Incredible hands.
I know. They're horrible.
because when he checks back the turn, what hands did he call the flop with that checks back the turn if he's usually betting off with most of his aces, which he should be? And then,
right, so
it's like he can't. Is he calling with a 9 here at the end? So let's just go with the assumption that he doesn't have an ace or a 9. So what is he calling the flop with, right?
Right.
So like a king 10 would be one. A hand like jack 10 and queen 10, those hands aren't going to call a bet. So, man, I wonder if the play ever here is to check, because he has to turn some of those hands into bluffs that are counterfeit. I mean, that's just sort of like, right. I mean, I know that your absolute hand strength looks like kind of strong, but when you look at this particular hand, again, I don't he's not arriving with a lot of nines. I don't know if he's going to call this sizing with a 9. I don't think he's calling with a lot of 9s anyways if you come out and bet. We're basically dismissing the fact that he has aces with a check back on the turn, so it sort of leaves a couple hands that you lose to, and then a couple hands that sort of are counterfeited pair plus 10s that may feel like that they need to bluff. Or, I mean, I guess you could maybe block. I guess you could block, like, almost like block and deuce. The problem here with, like, having, if you check and he's got queen 10, he might think he has enough showdown value, queen 10, jack 10, to just check it back. But if you block the end here and you bet, like, 250, see, the more I'm thinking through this, the more maybe I like a block here to induce. If you block the end, you might get a crying call or you might induce, and obviously you would have to call off. I don't know about this sizing, though. I think I probably like a block sizing here, to be honest with you, when I'm looking at this on paper.
Well, I actually achieved an induce, which was pretty terrible in the moment, because he when I bet 780, he thought about it for about a minute, and then he made it 3,600 to go.
So wow, that's so you bet 780 and he made it 3,600. That's
he made 3,600. Yeah.
Wow, that's like. Would he ever do? But I mean, that's crazy because.
I mean, the only hands that I could put him on then in that particular moment was King Jack and King 10, for example, that had turned 2 pair on the turn,
right,
and now had boated up, and obviously King Jack, which now is is the second nuts, basically.
Well, yeah, but those are two viable. So let's say that he's calling, maybe he's not calling like King 10 offsuit, but let's say that he's calling button sometimes with King Jack offsuit. There's probably like 4 or 5 combos of King Jack. There's one like King Jack. Well, there's one King Jack suited here. King of Diamonds is out there. King of Clubs is out there. So there's 2 King Jack suiteds. King of Spades, Jack of Spades, and King of Hearts, Jack of Hearts. And then let's throw in like maybe another 2 offsuit partial calls on the button. 4 combos of King Jack. And then you've got 2 combos of King 10 suited. So that's 6 combos that you lose to. And I think that all those hands are played in this manner, in that way. King Jack and King 10.
Right.
And then you look at the other side of like, well, is he valuing something, which would be like pocket jacks that didn't 3-bet off or pocket 10s, and is he even raising at the end? I mean, I guess it's possible. I mean, you looked at, that's like 6 combos, but I think that the King Jack to King 10 ratio is much larger, even though it's 6 and 6, as the way of what a competent player would play it. I don't know if jacks or 10s are raising at the end here, and then they have to get here with not 3-betting pre-flop too, whereas the King Jack and the King 10 is a viable source either way. I mean, 780 to 960. Also too, I think that in live poker this spot is incredibly under bluffed as well. I mean, like, what is he bluffing with here? I mean, like, again, it would almost have to be like turning like a Jack 10 or Queen 10 like into bluff. 780 into 960, the pot is like, what is that? That's 1740. So it's like, let's see, 1740 and 36. It's like 5,400, like 2,800 for you to call, something like that. Is that right?
Yeah.
28, 54, 28 for you to call. 54, 28 for you to call. So you're getting like 2 to 1.
2 to 1.
I mean, you're pretty high up in your range here. I mean, here's the thing: like when you default back.
That's the only thing. I mean, in real time, I thought to myself, if I have jacks here, I'm going to fold. The hand that I'm going to call with, and this is a crying call, is queens. Really, I mean, I wasn't confident calling with queens, but I mean, I couldn't lay down queens here. I just thought.
I mean, you just have to look at this situation, and you're like, is there a chance 1 out of 3 times here that I have the best hand? But you called in like a couple months, what is it, like last month with that King 9 versus King 10 hand too, right?
Yeah.
You get into these cooler spots here.
I do, yeah. I mean, this was fortunate. He actually happened to have pocket 10s here, and as soon as I said call, he was like, before I said when I said call, he said good hand. He turned over his pocket 10s, so I knew that he had turned his 10s into a bluff.
You think he turned his tens
which was
into a bluff?
Yeah, he turned his pocket tens into a bluff. Yeah, he bowed it up and he turned his tens into a bluff.
So to bluff what? Jacks or queens?
He put me on jack. He said to me, he said, "I thought you had jacks." That's what he told me that he thought I had.
I mean, that's some pretty high level stuff. If he thinks that you're gonna fold, and he's saying that he's turning 10-10 into a bluff. I mean, I don't know how often I see somebody try to turn like a smaller
away,
boat.
Bart.
What's up?
Straight away, as soon as I said call, he was like, good hand. He turned over his tens and he just said, good hand. Good hand.
I believe you. I just think that it's kind of far up for him to turn into a bluff. By the way, there's one of the other things that just didn't come off to me is that he could have king queen here too, right? I think that just kind of threw me off because you have pocket queens. There's like, if he's calling with king, if he could be calling here with king queen offsuit, and there's one queen left in the deck, and now two king. This is like two combos of king queen as well.
I think it's like 7 or 8 decent combos.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 7 or 8 decent combos that beat you here, and then, if you have to stretch down to him either overvaluing his hand or turning a full house into a bluff. I mean, hey, listen, like if you're up against a competent player, sometimes when you're that far up in your range and you're getting a price, you just sort of like side call. I mean, I've seen Art on Live at the Bike. I'm gonna probably do a hand this week where he lost a hand to Lynn, where he made a flush and Lynn raised the river, and I think that he didn't take it back to the street. He tries to play too like close to equilibrium sometimes, where equilibrium play would say this is a bet call, but like when you're making like in live poker and you're looking at a specific situation that's under bluffed, sometimes you can make an exploitable fold. But that's interesting.
I just felt in this situation it was so polarized that I mean there wasn't many hands that I could have that I could actually call that raise there. Like realistically, it should be just pocket kings and maybe pocket queens, and even sometimes I think some people would lay down queens there.
Did you say that you snap called?
If you read my hand,
did you snap?
No,
call?
I didn't snap call.
Oh,
no.
Because somebody said that if you snapped, then he was value owning himself, and then he just claimed it was a bluff. But it didn't sound to me like you. It didn't sound to me like you snap called. So that's
I took about 2 minutes to make a decision. I was close to.
That's.
I just thought it out and thought, it's one of those hands I gotta just bite down and call, and whatever happens, happens.
That's interesting. Well, I mean, you can't be that far off when you've got like a really strong hand. You know what I mean? And you're getting a price, and you don't know what to do. But I appreciate the call, Sean, as always. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take it easy. Take it easy, Bart.
All right, guys. I see Wendy the Hammer in the live chat. That's going to do it for us this week. Thank you guys, of course, as always, for joining me. We're going to get that guy, Alan. I already swore at him in an email for not calling back in. If you want to pre-submit your hands, do so at just email me, bart@crushlivepoker.com. Again, I'll be in Kansas City a week from tomorrow, and then I'll be in Austin next weekend. And I got my birthday here in 2 days. I'm turning 40 and my 1-year anniversary as well. So thank you guys for joining me. And again, if you want to see these full live streams, you better subscribe and turn on notifications, because I'm going to make them unlisted soon. Again, this might be the last one I put up that will go out public, the full stream. So subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on your notifications. All right, guys, have a good week.
I'm here seeking only what I need. In your mind is where I'll plant my seed. It's for sure.
Let me keep you in this place. You'll be better off this way. I will keep you warm and safe. You'll be better off this way. You learn to love the price you pay. Trust me, dear, you're better off this way.
Put together sun and sister moon. I'll be high.
This is the family who wanted to connect and find inspiration in new places.
Woke up today